Welcome to Take Two, a discussion of the times and current events. I'm joined as always by Adam Matlack and Mike Pomerantz. Today our topic is the phrase Chinese virus appropriate?
Yeah, I mean, we need to focus on what we're doing as opposed to how we're talking about it. But I would be lying if I said that every time I read the tweet or heard the quote, I would be lying if I said it didn't annoy me. It's like why do you have to do that now? Why do you have to bring out the xenophobia when we should be trying to come together? What does he think? If he calls it the coronavirus, people are going to think that he is responsible for it. I'm talking about Trump. Listen. I will take if he manages this crisis properly and gets us into a much better financial and social footing, and he gets reelected. As much as I can't friggin' stand the guy, I will take it. Okay, I will take it, and he can call it whatever he wants, so long as the response is what is needed and effective. And that's not for me to say. But man, every time he does this, like, what's the point? The point is that we've got a commander in chief who's running scared, and all he cares about is trying to blame other people. This is not a situation about blame. I realize there's Democrats who are like, oh, Trump did this wrong, Trump did that wrong. I have no reason to believe that a Democratic president would have not made the same mistakes. Okay, so I'm not going to sit here and criticize Trump, especially now as we're on March 19th and things are actually starting to improve a little bit in terms of the administration's response. But for God's sake, can you just take a second and not have to blame somebody? Oh, China's the bad guy. China's the bad guy. It doesn't need to be a bad guy. The coronavirus is the bad guy. And all it proves is how constrained Trump's thinking is, that he has to keep going Chinese virus, Wuhan virus. Well, what is the downside of just calling it coronavirus? So again, it doesn't matter. The most important thing is the actual response. But can you not do it? I mean, just stop. It's not a game changer. It's just stupid. Like, just don't do it.
So it's an interesting time we live in here, where words matter deeply and cancer culture exists. And here we are. The president of the United States is playing the card that he knows how to play as perfectly as he can play it, which is deflect and blame. Given the state of the markets, I think you need to break this down into two ways. Is it appropriate? From a culture perspective, I don't probably think it is. From a political perspective, I think it's really smart of Trump. It sucks that he has to politicize it, defend himself like this. And I agree with Mikey there. Like, I just don't think it, like, regardless of who's in power, I don't think this is handled any differently. I mean, some of the economic stimulus is arguable, but I think we're just seeing the real version of Trump come out with some of these economic stimulus stuff. But in terms of the hammering of this, so-called virus by being originated from and being pointed to, oh, it came from China, it's a Chinese tool, it's almost as if like they're false. I think politically it's a wise move because it deflects. And in the game, in the era of political talk and political, blame, Trump's really good at this. And it's true. It's his only card, but he plays it really well. And so, but going deeper down into words matter here, does this kind of push people into racist or xenophobic behavior against Chinese people? I think to some degree it does. And I think that's really too bad, that's kind of the world we live in, where people get, afraid of their family's safety or health just because someone is a different nationality than you next to you. And so I think ultimately it's probably not, it's definitely not kind. It's definitely not conscious and being appropriate in terms of everyday speak, but I think it's absolutely a smart play politically. And that's just the choices people are making.
Well, I think you make an excellent point, and let me highlight it. The idea that this is how the dude functions is key. because I don't want him, as much as I can't stand him, I don't want him to be dysfunctional now. So let me put it this way, because my primary point is that it's about the substance of the response. So if this helps him help me, if this helps him help my neighbors and help the country, then it's a small price to pay. Okay, and let him do it. Let him call it whatever he wants. I'll give the baby his bottle. Okay, because yeah, it's not kind, but right now the world is being very unkind. So I think the point that you make, and if I'm reading it right, is that this is kind of just who he is. This is sort of how he has to work. And if he needs to do this to get the political machination of his own administration, his own party, to do what is ultimately the right thing, which I think we're starting to see now, then I can forgive it. I mean, I can forgive a lot. I think forgiveness is really important, especially now. But I do wish he'd stop. But if this is how he functions, and it's not how I would function, but if this is how he functions, this is what it takes for him to be successful, then I reluctantly say it's worth it.
See, so that's a political, like, I'm going to set this aside. I'm not going to I'm going to take the greater good, i.e., like whatever we can do collectively to move past this and to, be triumphant over it is more important than politeness and niceties and all these other things that people are talking about. But I think at the core, a lot of people are just continually upset about Trump's tact. He just doesn't have any. And he really is an expert at making the wall, the big bad wolf, all these other people, all this. This is what's wrong, and here we're going to fix it. And so, in a case like this, most people want someone to blame, and that's just the way it is. And like some Democrats and some of the opposite aisle there, and some Republicans, they were going to blame whoever. And so, from his position to blame, I think it does help him operate. I think it does help the country, even to some degree, sit there and say, oh, okay, look, it originated from here. It's not something we did. It's not something we started, but we're going to finish it. And I think that's a powerful narrative for politically and just culturally. I hope that the narrative can shift away from the fact that we're going to belittle people or force people to be xenophobic. That's the last thing we really should want. So I don't think it's appropriate, but at the same time, like Mike said, it probably has its place, especially for somebody as one-dimensional as Trump.
All right. That's all the time we have today. Thank you both for your thoughts. If you enjoyed our video, please be sure to like and subscribe below and join us for the next edition of Take Two.